Okay, let's get started. For the first glue up, I need 3 pieces of exactly the same dimensions. I have some beech, I have some teak, which is 49 by 15 mil and about 500 mil long. Now the centerpiece, it's where it gets a little bit tricky. It's cut on a 45-degree angle, and I'm gonna show you how to make the centerpiece now. For the center part, I'm gonna glue the wenge and the beech together. A thin strip of beech glued together with the darker wood like this. Now the beech is a bit longer than the wenge, and this is just to get the first cut right here. We'll start with the gluing. I have already glued that one, so we just need this. I'm gluing both sides, and don't put too much glue on because it's a fairly big surface. I've cleaned off this edge right here and put my blade in a 45-degree angle. This setup here is only for the first cut. The rest of the cuts will be done like this. We have a huge area of the blade going through the timber, and we want to minimize the resistance on the blade. So bring the blade down so only a few teeth are sticking out. The last bit right here is just not safe enough to go through the saw like this. So we're going to put it through our thicknesser like this. I've cut all the center part 17 mil wide, and now I'm going to get them through the planer, and I'm going to end up with 15 mil. So I'll take 1 mil on each side. I've run the piece through the thicknesser on both sides, and it's now 15 mil. Now I'm going to do the cut right here, and I'm just going to leave 2 mil. Second cut for 9 degrees, the width will be 49 mil. Ready for the first glue up, and you can actually mess this up. Wrong way. When I do start my right way, gluing, I put a piece of timber on top and on the bottom with some tape on, and I clamp these together first before I start clamping in this direction right here. I'm done with the gluing, and I ran all my pieces through the thicknesser, so there are 45 this way and 45 this way. For the next glue up, there are 2 patterns. First one, we'll start with horizontal, vertical, horizontal, vertical, horizontal, vertical, and so on. The second pattern, you start with 1 vertical, horizontal, vertical, horizontal, vertical, and so on. Now I'll start with gluing pattern 1, and after that I'll glue pattern 2. So I'll get 2 boards out of this. Gluing is done, and I just put them through my planer, just touching both sides. You want to be careful when you put them through the planer. You don't want to take the tip off this right here. That will ruin your pattern. I'll make the cross cuts, and they're going to be 40 mil thick, We're gonna end up at 38 mil, 1.5 inch. All cross cuts have been made for pattern 1 and 2. Here you go. Now we're ready for the final glue up. This is my final gluing setup. I've got 2 pieces right here to keep the board from going this direction. If it starts to move during the gluing, the pattern will get ruined. I've got a sacrifice piece right here. I've given the board a light sanding after the gluing. To flatten the piece out, I'm going to run it over my planer, and I'm going to take as little as possible each run. If you've got a single blade planer, I strongly recommend that you don't use it on end grain. It's simply just too dangerous. You can use a router sled or a drum sander or something like that instead. I've cleaned up the edges on my circular saw and made these cuts right here to give it a nice profile. The next thing I'll do is make the juice groove, and the only thing I want to mention here is please remember to go the right way around, this way. Do not go this way, that will drag the router into the piece and you can't control it. The juice groove are done, and now I'll start the sanding. I'll start with a grid 100, 120, 140 and 160. Now this is what I've been waiting for, the oil. I'm going to give it 3 coats until the wood can't take any more, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the colors come out in this 3D effect that I've made. After the oil is dry, I'm going to give it a few coats of some beeswax just to seal the timber off, and that will also help bring out the 3D effect, the colors, nicely. And there you go. And I'll leave them to dry now. Now for the final treatment, I'll give it some beeswax. The beeswax has some mineral oil in it. This one has gotten the first coat, and now I'll start on the first coat on this one. And there you go. So 2 coats and they're done. Now they're all done, and I absolutely love this pattern. I've made a few different versions. Turned out pretty good.